Indentured servants. What are indentured servants? This picture is of a typical household in an indentured servitude. Indentured servants were men and women who signed a contract by which they agreed to work for a certain number of years in exchange for transportation to the colonies and food, clothing, and shelter. How did they come about? This is a picture from the 19th century of servants traveling to go to a household. Colonists were in need of cheap labor to work their land, so the Virginia Company developed the system of indentured servitude. George Washington's servants. This photo is of George Washington's servants and some of his slaves. George Washington had several hundred servants, primarily men, but a few women. He had servants for more than 40 years at Mount Vernon. The servants lived in a servants' hall that was considered nice. Servants versus slaves. This picture shows a few of the slaves and then some of the servants. Indentured servants and slaves often had some of the same duties, but were not the same in many ways. For example, marriage to a slave was not recognized, but marriage to a servant was. Indentured servants were also seen as free once their contracts were up, but slaves would spend their whole life working for a family or master. Although indentured servants and slaves worked some of the same jobs, indentured servants were seen as above slaves because most servants were of European descent.
Treatment of slaves. Okay. The treatment of servants varied according to the owner and location. Servants often lived in their master's household or sometimes in separate halls if they worked for wealthier families. Servants signed their contracts for a number of years of labor, in return receiving shelter, food, wages, and often freedom dues. Freedom dues included things such as land, money, guns, and clothing that would be given to them at the end of their years agreed upon. Freedom dues were a good thing to look forward to, but only about 40% of indentured servants lived to complete their contracts. How did it end? The demand for labor grew and the price of indentured servants went up. Landowners then started turning more to slaves. Why would we teach it? This is a picture of someone teaching history, and we would teach students about indentured servants to help them understand or learn the difference between them and slaves, and also to teach about labor and the environment around labor during George Washington's time. These are our sources.